What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto entered the realm of moon goddesses, and one of them chose him as her warrior? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. The atmosphere was tense as the room was filled with four worried and concerned leaders of the underworld. The few times the room felt such intensity was when the devils prepared for the final preparations of the last battles of the Civil War and the War of the Three Biblical Factions. The sound of silence was broken by the underworld's leader of foreign affairs and one of its four leaders, Seraphal Leviathan, also known as Seraphal Cetri, the strongest female devil in the underworld. I'm sure that every faction has heard the news about the continent the size of Russia surfacing recently in the Pacific. And I will not doubt the other factions will be putting their best effort to investigate this mysterious civilization to contact its leader, and we shall and should send some of our own soon as well, said the usually childish Leviathan stoically. Who shall we send then? Asked Seersex Lucifer, formerly known as the Seersex Gremory, before ascending to the mantle of Lucifer, leader of the underworld, after the Great War, and is regarded as the most powerful of the four Maos with his power of destruction. Who else? Grabbing everyone's attention said Ajuka Beelzebub, formerly known as Ajuka Astaroth, who is now the underworld's genius, the sole inventor of the peerage system that would give his fellow devils an edge against the angels and fallen angels, and the smartest of the four Maos. Ajuka glanced at Seraphal nonchalantly, dragging everyone's sole attention to her. Seraphal, while acting childish at the public, she is the best foreign speaker we have, has yet to fail us. I have full confidence in her abilities to have great relations with this unknown variable and perhaps make an alliance in the near future. Continued Ajuka, making Seraphal to slightly blush in embarrassment from the praise. I agree with this. Anyone else might have sparked war instead of peace, said the tall, imposing figure of Falbium Asmodeus, formerly known as Falbium Glacia Labelas, one of the Mao, and is in charge of military affairs. Good, now that we have seemed to solve this situation, let us move to the next topic, Seersex said, bringing everyone's attention to him before continuing. There is no doubt in my mind that the immense spike of energy rivaling both Great Red and Ophis combined has been felt by every supernatural being in the world, and is located somewhere in the center of the kingdom is no mere coincidence. We also have to take into account that this is the biggest possible threat we encountered. Even Great Red and Ophis seem to take an interest in this, as both decide to shroud the whole place in a huge illusion, making the humans completely unaware of what lies in the shrouded fog. Seersex looked at Seraphal with a serious gaze, with her returning it. The moment you find or sense yourself in any imminent danger, do not hesitate to summon one of us in the army, and if it seems too powerful, retreat with haste. Seraphal nodded knowingly at her fellow Mao and friend. I also have ordered all high class and below not to approach the continent by any means until further notice, and any other clan leader or Satan class devil may ask our permission to enter the territory. But as of now only the four of us and our peerages are allowed to enter the uncharted territory. Any questions? Seersex asked with an arched brow. Silence shrouded the room as they looked at each other. Then make haste, be careful Seraphal, Seersex told his black-haired comrade. Don't worry Zexchan Tilda, I'm going to stay safe. Oh, and tell Graphia to look less serious for once. Sayonara Tilda, Seraphal said, returning to her bubbly persona as she left the room via teleportation magic. I swear 1 minute she's serious and the next she's a 4-year-old. Keep in touch, I'll use my best surveillance devices to gather more information, Ajuka said with a light chuckle before teleporting away to his laboratory. I'll keep the army on high alert, just give me the green light and we shall be prepared for war, Falbium said tiredly as he got up his chair and left, as he just wanted to relax today. Seersex leaned back on his reclining chair, taking a sip on his powerful underworld whiskey as he lets out a tired sigh afterwards. Just another day? Asked his silver-haired wife, who entered the room with a knowing look. Just another day. Honor Londo. The sounds of bones popping were heard as the three lords of Cinder rose from their deep slumber inside a huge beautiful temple laced with beautiful architecture and ornate furniture inside the Honor Londo castle. Damn, does it feel good to be awake again or not? Said the Lord of Sunlight out loud to particularly no one, as he stretches with a pleased look on his face. While still looking not a day over 25 years old, with his blonde spiky hair looking as vibrant as always. It does feel good, my dear, although Nito seems under the weather as always. I guess time can't change some things," said the bewitching pale beauty in a serene tone to her fellow lover and lord as she rose at his right, snuggling her ample bosom in his powerful arm, painting her face with a loving smile and a dust of red adorning her cheeks. To call her a witch is a vast understatement. The Lord of Death and Disease grunted as he descended into the pristine marble floor, teleporting to Kami knows where, taking his huge skeletal form with him. "Talkative as always," said the waking figure with an equal tone of serenity as the Witch of Izalith, albeit with a tinge of sensuality laced with it, as she fixes her silky brunette locks, effectively making her look more motherly and gorgeous. Then grabbing Naruto's left arm, placing it between her, bountiful that her already seductive-looking silky white attire had a difficult task of constraining for eons. All three shifted their attention to the colossal ornate door decorated with elegant gold, ivory, and lapis lazuli carving of the final battle against the dragons. As another breathtaking woman entered the ornate temple with powerful black knights following closely behind her as if she could not defend herself. She was equally alluring than her fellow sisters, with her luminous braided platinum locks only to be contrasted by her jet black robe that seemed more elegant than a normal firekeeper, as the elegant gold embroidery complementing the dark accentuating her curvaceous figure. The only thing that caught more attention than anything else from her appearance was the marvelous work of art that was her crown, covering her eyes as the sunlight shone off from the polished silver and platinum. As she paces towards her husband with graceful steps, with each step displaying her natural beauty while bearing a small yet alluring smile that radiated absolute class and purity. As she neared her fellow sisters and beloved, she bowed gracefully towards them. "I see my beloved and sisters has awoken from their deep slumber. Breakfast is ready," the firekeeper said teasingly with her silky voice. "Good morning, my dear. Time seems to have treated you well. You look not a day over 21. Naruto said with an equal teasing voice while his two lovers beside him giggled angelically. "I'm glad to see thy mannerisms still intact after all these years," the firekeeper said with a smile. "I'm guessing the new age of fire has awakened?" the Lord of Sunlight asked knowingly. "Indeed, it seems thy plan has worked. I'm ecstatic to see the new flame to be kindled," the firekeeper said as she embraced her lord as she snuggled on his strong chest, shortly accompanied by her loving sisters. "I love thee much," said the firekeeper softly against his chest, producing a different kind of warmth the flame could not hope to produce within her. The firekeeper pulled back and gazed at Naruto with a smile so infectious that one cannot help but smile back. "Dost thou want to see the new flame? My firekeepers are tending to it as of now. I noticed after our awakening that there seemeth as though there are other magical beings at play, perhaps related those who weren't affected by the slumber." Now Naruto was intrigued. He knew that there were some humans and creatures that were not affected by his sleeping magic. He also knew that there was more to the world than what he knew. At the moment of his waking, he felt the aura of beings thousands of miles away. Beings that felt similar yet vastly different at the same time. He took note that his kingdom shrouded by some sort of magic that wants his kingdom to be hidden. "Lead the way," Naruto said smiling as he stood up from his elegant sarcophagus, subconsciously summoning his powerful frayed blade to his left hip, following shortly behind his lover's lead by the matriarch of the firekeepers to the new flame. Unknown location. Sounds of pain and agony can be heard coming from the cries of vile creatures bound to serve to an all-powerful master. In a remote location that seems devoid of all light, yet with a naked eye, the vileness of those who dwell can be identified with utmost ease. While the vile stench of death and rot consumes the land, a stench so putrid that Satan himself would recoil. In the remote location lies a dark, imposing castle so tainted with the dark that it seems as though the abyss itself is repulsed by merely coexisting near such location. "The fire has been reborn, my lord," a disgusting creature of what seemed to be black sludge tainted with the darkest of abyss said to the forgotten Lord of Cinder, sitting comfortably on a throne made from the remains of slain warriors and their most coveted possessions, from their weapons to their skulls. Showing the harsh consequence of insubordination to the Lord of Cinder. "When are we going to release our presence in the world, my lord?" questioned the vile being in a voice so sweet and convincing that it seems as though it can be trusted for a split second. "In due time, Aldrich," In due time, the Lord said with a raspy voice as he leaned back on his throne of fear, visualizing the vengeance and annihilation he would unleash to his fellow lords for disregarding his strength and his rightful place as the true Lord of Cinder. The crowds were impatient, budding with excitement to witness their king and queens once more for ushering the new age of fire. Thousands upon thousands of the elite and influential citizens and knights gather around the castle, prepare for their king's speech on a cool sunny morning. The same Lord who saved the whole kingdom from collapsing when the fire was fading, and queens that kept the society stable and government productive. The loud cheers and chants calling for the king were put to a halt when they saw one of their immaculate queens step out of the Gothic-styled castle. As she strolls to the podium with a certain grace only her fellow sisters can possess, while she's sporting a scarlet blush at the attention she was receiving. Accompanying her from behind was one of Naruto's 4 main knights, the Lord's Blade Kirin, with her intimidating golden tracers strapped on each hip, and her beautiful azure armor complementing her delicate white hair and porcelain mask. The kingdom was left speechless. Never in their life had they seen a woman more fitting role for a queen. The matriarch of the Firekeeper Creed was dressed in the silkiest and whitest of garments, one akin to a Greek chiton, embroidered with immaculate gold and scarlet patterns to her sides flowing downwards. The kingdom was still left in awe. Her usual beautiful dark robe was replaced with its opposite equivalents. Quite the contrast indeed. What also caught their plastered attention was the change in her ornate platinum and silver crown, which was now replaced with rose gold in tone and imbued with beautiful engravings and etched with various blue sapphires and diamonds. Truly the very definition of a goddess on earth, as the crowd roared louder than before. Watching from a window on the castle balcony, Guinevere held a mischievous smirk, glad that she convinced her sister that a wardrobe change was needed from time to time, as her usual black robe, while elegant, became bland after seeing the same clothing for eons. "You planned of this, didn't you?" questioned the Witch of Izalith, Querida, as she gazed to her fellow sister knowingly. "Why, of course. Her usual robe is getting quite monotonous after seeing it every day for millennia. So a wardrobe change is much needed, and as from what I can interpret, the kingdom loves her new look as well. It seems as though I need to step up my fashion sense soon." Guinevere responded nonchalantly with a smile. You do have a point. I guess I shall browse through your wardrobe for inspiration soon," Querida said as she tapped her chin in thought. "Plan 2 completed, Tilda," muttered a crafty Guinevere. "Did you say something?" questioned the pyromancy goddess. "Nothing now, shush, she's starting," Guinevere said as she glued her eyes to the Firekeeper, while Querida raised a brow behind her, then tuning in at her sister's speech. The Firekeeper gave her usual small radiant smile that silenced the crowd as she began her speech to the kingdom regarding the flame and her soulmate, Naruto. "The flame has been rekindled and has never burned as bright as it did before. The mere embers are now scorching flame akin to the firestorms your queen and Lord of Cinder, the Witch of Izalith, Querida, cast upon the everlasting dragons." The populace were crying tears of joy, knowing that their time of fear, that the dark shall shroud the kingdom, has been dissipated and the new age of fire was indeed fact. However, the crowd silenced once more, paying attention. "While we hast been slumbering, the world hast been moving forward. I am sure thou hast sensed a number of different magical beings approaching the kingdom of an Orlando, and that the borders of the continent are shrouded with a magical fog in hopes of hiding our kingdom from the normal humans that inhabit outside of our kingdom. Humans that have no ability to cast or use magic." The Firekeeper paused to give her subjects a moment to take in the information. "The normal humans are no threat to our beings, as a mere infant from our kingdom can obliterate a human without magic," she said, causing chuckles amongst the crowd. "However, regarding to the other magical beings we sensed coming to our kingdom hopefully to talk, I shall leave that task to mine love and lord, the Lord of Cinder, Namikaze, Naruto." The Firekeeper ended, looking behind her to the castle entrance to welcome her king to the podium as she stood to the side. "Who knew she had such talent with her silk tongue?" Guinevere said out loud, proud of her fellow sister in all but blood, before taking a sip on her tea. "I agree, perhaps she shall make a fine diplomat alongside you, especially with the huge amount of foreign talks soon," the pyromancer said to Guinevere, equally proud of her fellow queen. "It's not fair that you can't join us, but I guess it should decrease my workload dealing with politics," the goddess of fertility said with a playful sigh. "I also have a kingdom to run besides an Orlando, my dear sister," Querida said with a smile while giving Guinevere a sly look. "Touché. Touché Tilda. Guinevere smiled back as they both watched for their beloved to make an appearance to address the kingdom. "My late ladies," said a charming voice of a woman behind them, causing both to gaze behind only to smile at the sight of another of their sisters. The woman in question was another beautiful specimen both in body and spirit, as she approached her equals with her silky white hair that reached all the way to her backside and flawless skin. Matched with her beautiful pearly white fur coat made with the rarest of materials while adorning a luxurious pearl necklace, which was further accentuated by her soft and delicate facial features. "Not at all seat, now come and join us, my dear," Guinevere said, gesturing to an empty seat beside her as they prepare for their husband's appearance and speech. Naruto was excited as he saw his cue to walk to the podium. The last time he spoke to his kingdom was to bear the dark news that the Age of Fire was going to be no more, and how he was going to enact his plan for the whole kingdom, damaging the morale of his kingdom. Even he was skeptical of his plan and had no idea if it would even work, but at least he had a strategy instead of none. He would sooner disgrace himself if he saw his empire struggle and die while he watches from afar with the comfort of his knights. Cheers and cries of joy burst from the crowd as they saw their beloved king for the first time in years. Naruto was walking with a certain pride in each step as he wore his golden armor from his chest to toe that glistened beautifully in the sunlight. Strapped to his back was his newly sharpened and polished legendary profaned greatsword, one of the many infamous weapons he has in his arsenal, acquired by defeating Pontiff Sulivan when he betrayed the kingdom and tried to kidnap a royal. Rumor has it that he infused Pontiff's soul within the blade and that when he runs magic through the sword it can summon the profaned flame which can melt anything Naruto deems it to. Following closely behind him was 3 of his 4 main knights. Hawkeye Goff, a gigantic figure with his legendary bow behind his back. The Abyss Walker, Knight Artorias with his notorious greatsword that tore through the abyss like butter while wearing his elegant wolf armor. Lastly, the proclaimed captain of the 4 knights of Naruto was Ornstein, adorned with his beautiful golden Dragonslayer armor, with his Dragonslayer spear behind his back. As Naruto approached the ornate podium, he approached his queen to the side and kissed her soft lips with the utmost passion in front of the kingdom, giving her a massive blush as she returned it with equal passion, causing the kingdom to cheer after witnessing the true love that was taking place in front of them. While his knights knelt gladly behind their king and queen, the masses deadened their noise as Naruto cleared his throat to address his kingdom of Anorlando. "We have evaded the danger of the fading of the flame, and have awakened to a new age of not only fire but an age of unknown. For we have been asleep for millions of years while the outside world progressed, but that does not mean we are powerless. We are far from that. Did we surrender when the abyss shrouded the great city of Ulasil? The seemingly endless battle against the everlasting dragons? Or the seemingly infinite undead spawns that rose as a result of the fading flame? No, we are familiar to facing struggles. In fact, we embrace it, for we are conceived to experience struggles and defeat it, for it ushers the feeling to be truly alive and free. We are not merely citizens of Anorlando, but powerful warriors who survived the testament of time." Naruto paused to calm the inspired nation. "My informants informed me that several beings of high power are congregating to Anorlando in hopes of establishing contact with us, timeless beings forgotten in history. Fret not, for I will make sure that we get the message across that we are not an empire to trifle with. In the coming days expect various beings arriving. I expect that you, my loyal subjects, to treat them with respect like your fellow comrades. However, unlike your fellow comrades, do not trust a single person, for we have yet to discover their true intentions, pure or vile. Show them that Anorlando is not only a powerful sovereignty but one that desires peace and love above all else." Naruto looked at his wives before he continued. "Remember that not all this can be achieved by ourselves, but with full cooperation, and all credit goes to our queens. Queen Selene and her army of firekeepers who keep the nation functioning each and every day with her vast intelligence coupled with her grace. Empress Guinevere with her self-proclaimed title as Empress." The crowds howled at that one for keeping the government stable and with a glance can purify the darkest of hearts. "My fellow Lord of Cinder, or should I say Lady of Cinder?" queried the Witch of Izalith, who keeps the fire in our hearts warm and everlasting. "And lastly, the bewitching queen of the draconic realm Seath the Scaleless, for without her we would not have won against the vile dragons," Naruto said as he clapped and cheered for his lovers. Selene looked at the ground shyly at her praise of her love, while her sisters appeared on the castle balcony to wave to their people, all the while blushing with embarrassment and love for their husband, making the women in the crowds coo in astonishment of their divine appearance, and the men to be entranced by the beauty of their leaders. Naruto continued for his final words to his nation. As I finish this speech, I want you all to remember that death is not what we should be fearful of, but the fear of never beginning to truly live. For not anything great was achieved without great danger. Naruto finished as he waved the crowd goodbye as he stepped down to the podium and walked back to the castle slowly with Selene latching on his left arm. The crowds chanted for their kingdom and celebrated for the whole day and night in honor of their king and queens. Nito watched from afar away from sight with his skeletal warriors with respect to his fellow lord before disappearing to his chambers. Another figure stood from a distant tower, interested with the seemingly powerful faction of various humans that seemed to possess various skills of magic and power as the figure tore the fabric of the universe, leaving the kingdom. As Naruto reached the castle door, he glanced knowingly with a smirk etched on his face at the tower before retiring to his chamber with a knowing firekeeper. Just as I thought, my dear hasn't noticed, teased the firekeeper, now known as Selene. It will take more than 1,000,000 years for my skills to rust, my dear. Now let us retire to the dining room. I feel your fellow sisters have something to say with your new look. Naruto countered back, causing the firekeeper to look down in embarrassment. Learning a lesson that in a war of words Naruto always seems reign with superiority. That is, unless he made them mad, for he concedes faster than he could fire bolts of lightning. City of Hida. One day after the speech. When approaching the kingdom of Anor Londo by sea on its southeast, one might see the towering lighthouse made of ivory and marble, otherwise famously known as Hida's Tower of Flame, located near the main docks of the city of Hida. The city usually was filled with bustling crowds, the cool ocean breeze, colorful market stalls, huge docking frigates, and people visiting the majestic Cathedral of Blue. However, today the city seems livelier than usual. Perhaps it is the relief of being awakened once more, or the massive morale boost their king and queen gave to them. They most likely were excited to the new beings they would encounter. Due to Hida being the location the supernatural beings will be forced to teleport to, as Naruto wanted his mages to block all teleportation to the kingdom besides Hida, successfully quarantining the unknown forces. The city guards are on the edge with their main goal to escort wandering foreign entities to the cathedral, calming down after hearing that their king dispatched a number of powerful troops to the city, and rumor has it that the king himself personally sent Dragonslayer armor, and the captain of the 4 knights, Ornstein, is the one leading the force. Arriving from the main bonfire came out huge armored champions, otherwise known as Dragon Riders, a title reserved for legendary warriors who helped Naruto discover the Drangelic Kingdom as they crushed its country only to build an everlasting kingdom on their graves. The groups that followed after were Anor Londo's Black and Silver Knights, legendary warriors known for their undying loyalty toward the king and queens of Anor Londo. The last group, however, is one that shocked the most out of everyone. For coming out of the bonfire was not only Ornstein and his apprentice, mysteriously known as Dragonslayer armor, but Princess Gwyndolin, goddess of the moon, and her mother, Empress Guinevere in the flesh. The situation must be no laughing matter if not only one of the king's most powerful warriors appeared, but his wife and daughter as well. Cheers erupted from the crowd witnessing the sight of their beloved queen and princess, as some fainted at the shock. "Mother dearest, why'd I have to come with? Father promised me that we shall go sightseeing in Anor Londo today with my sisters," questioned the young woman with delicate porcelain-like appearance. "Oh hush Gwyndolin, you and I will have plenty of time with your father, but as of today I shall groom you to be my perfect replacement as a great diplomat. Now let us go to the cathedral. After all, wouldn't you want to see the very place you were conceived?" Guinevere slyly said, gaining the reaction she desired. "Mother, have you no restraint?" said a wide-eyed Gwyndolin, almost tripping from her steps. "I jest, my dear. Your father and I did it at the tower. The highest point, in fact. Tilda, I remember that night clearly. Oh, how he would," putting the nail in the coffin. Guinevere strolls to the cathedral, leaving her speechless daughter to comprehend what she just said. "Mother!" A womanly shriek was heard by everyone in Hida, wishing for a painless death to the recipient. Except it was the queen who was the one that was getting screamed at. Off to a distance, Ornstein stood with a slump, quite rare for the knight captain, as he usually stood with a great posture filled with confidence. Now I know why Lord Naruto said this was a task of epic proportions. sighed the knight in dragon armor as he followed his majesties as his silent apprentice could not agree more. Underworld. The devils gathered in the council room to wish a safe trip to their Leviathan as she stood on the magical portal headed for the unknown kingdom. Godspeed Sarah, make sure you don't sour relations with the leader or whoever it is that's in charge. Teased the red-headed Lucifer. Mo Tilda, I won't, I'll make sure of it after the talks, the leader and I will be besties Tilda. Seraphal cheered as she summoned her wand, waving it in the air like a maniac. Just don't embarrass our kind sis, sighed her younger sister Sona Citri, high-class devil currently residing in the human world. How rude, Sotan. I think I'm going to die tonight after hearing how much faith you have with me, cried Seraphal, albeit a fake sob. Is it too late to change? Who we send? Whispered the green-haired Ajuka to his best friend Sirzex. She'll get riled up if she hears you, just let it play out, Sirzex whispered back. I think it's time to go, don't want to be the last faction to arrive there, won't you? Said the stoic wife of Sirzex, Graphia, who held the title as the strongest queen piece in the underworld, and only second to Seraphal as the strongest female devil. Fine, I'm going now, huffed an agitated Leviathan as she activated the teleportation circle and left. What's up with her? Questioned a now waking Falbium, who was leaning at the wall napping the whole time. I don't know, to be honest. Her outburst has been increasing lately, won't you agree? Asked Ajuka to his fellow peers. I'm telling you, she needs to find herself a husband or a boyfriend for once in her life. I guarantee you she'll change in a heartbeat, Falbium said as he yawned and left to perform his duties. Seraphal, boyfriend? Husband? Yeah right, thought Sona as she said her goodbyes to her superiors, and went back to the human world. Heaven. The gates of heaven never seemed brighter than today as the seraphs and angels gathered around the pearly gates to pray for their fellow seraphs Gabriel and Raphael a safe trek to the uncharted land. Cheering them on to show the inhabitants of the land that angels desire peace and love above all else. Truly a heavenly beauty, both Gabriel and Raphael, as the debate as to who is the most beautiful will always end in a draw. As both twins look identical yet vastly different from one another. One blonde akin to gold ornate spear she wields. The other black-haired wielding a beautiful yet deadly black bow laced with ivory, golden-eyed, crimson-eyed, and one outgoing and the other shy. However, both are exactly identical in bodily proportions, as both very well may have the amplest bosoms the kingdom of heaven. Such a sinful body for such a pure and delicate angel. Both also adorned their most elegant angelic garb as both decided that they wanted to appear to the very word angelic. I'm sorry I could not come and aid you, my beautiful sisters, as heaven would be left in defenseless and unstable without me, said a downtrodden Michael as he hugged his favorite and only sister's luck to their journey. Do not fret, dear brother, for we shall come back harmless after all. I have dearest sister Raphael accompanying me, said a giddy Gabriel as her sister nodded behind her. Take care, sisters, come back with some souvenirs, screamed their rowdy brother and fellow seraph, Uriel. Will do, brother, both yelled as they summoned their majestic white wings, flying towards the portal that is the gates of heaven while waving goodbye to their people. As the crowd dissipated, leaving only Michael and Uriel alone staring at the portal, Uriel nudged the entranced Michael. I'm surprised you actually let those leave without your sight for once, teased Uriel, wagging his eyebrows up and down, enticing a chuckle from the new leader of heaven. They have to mature at some point, and I feel that this is the perfect opportunity to do so, said the calculating Michael, shocking Uriel slightly. What if they find a love in the land? Questioned Uriel, knowing how Michael would react. Why, they would be forever bound to heaven, and I shall take matters into my own hands, eviscerating this lover, tearing his limbs piece by piece while chalking on his own vile blue oomph. Michael was silenced by a worried Uriel covering his mouth. See, chill out, brother, I was just joking. If it weren't for me, you probably would have fallen as your wings had started to flicker to black and white, sighed Uriel in relief as he felt his brother calm down. True, I shall not worry at the very least. Now let us go, we have matters to discuss regarding the future treaty between the devils and our fallen brothers and sisters, Michael said as they flew to their abode. Grigori Base. Distressed fallen angels gather at the Grigori's main base just outside of Azazel's huge Victorian-styled mansion, one fitting for a governor to all fallen angels. Azazel was about to leave his abode until he was greeted by his subjects with their faces etched with worry and fear. No, not for their governor, they could care less what happens to him, but the worry and fear of she who shall not be named being the temporary governess of the Grigori. Lord Azazel, you can't be seriously leaving us with her in charge, yelled the huge populace of fallen angels, wishing their leader would reconsider staying instead of visiting the new continent, leaving his subjects with his secretary, Penumwe. Arid Tilda, what's this? Are you all considering mutiny? Who shall I give punishment to? Said the sadistic beauty appearing behind the distressed crowd. Nothing. We shall obey your every command, Penumwe-sama. The fallen angels yelled in unity as they flew away with utmost haste. You didn't have to do that, you know? Chuckled Azazel, knowing the infamous reputation his sister and secretary possessed. Do what exactly? I don't know what you are talking about, Zel-chan. Tilda. Penumwe teased, causing Azazel to groan at the response and the nickname. What do you want exactly? You normally don't approach me alone, Azazel said in curiosity. How can you assume I want something from my dear brother? How mean and tyrannical must you be? Penumwe continued, causing Azazel to twitch his left eye. Get to the point, said a tired Azazel, crossing his hands. Fine if you want to be like that. I want to come with you, the black-haired beauty said, intriguing Azazel. Give me a reason why you would want to come. Something you know that I don't? Questioned a skeptical Azazel. Not really, I just want to experience this enigma. After all, this is the biggest thing that happened since ever, Penumwe said, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. Fine, just let me do the talking unless I tell you to do so. Get the portal ready, I'll leave Barakiel in charge, see you in 5 minutes. As Azazel left without hearing her response. I have a good feeling about this place, Fufu Tilda, Penumwe said to herself as she prepared the portal, dreaming of the new beings she would encounter. Hoping that she shall soon find her true love in this enchanting place. Seraphal was expecting a large body of land with endless fields stretching for hundreds of miles when she decided to teleport to the unknown territory. What she did not expect was a huge ornate ballroom filled with various beings from other factions she recognized. Confusing her and everyone in the room. Surely they did not all teleport to the same place at once. Seraphal also took note that the angels and fallen were present, sparing a glance at her former rivals who did the same at their discretion. Small talks broke out of the room as the other factions start questioning one another as to how they ended up at the same location and why the windows were tinted black, as if the inhabitants wanted them not to see anything outside of the ballroom yet. Greetings, Leviathan, said a blonde figure behind Seraphal as she recognized her as the heavenly seraph, Gabriel, with Raphael standing behind her, quiet and calculating as always, nodding to Seraphal with recognition. Seraphal smiled as she greeted them formally and shook their hands, seeing a now friendly face. Hello, Gabi-chan. Raf-chan, glad to see you two again. Any idea why we are here? Surely we did not all teleport to one place? Questioned Seraphal, enticing a nod from Raphael. I feel as though the inhabitants had something to do with this, as they have us caged in this ballroom. I've tried opening the doors and teleporting away, and it seems as though someone or something is blocking all our powers. Thankfully no one has done anything crazy as of now, Raphael said calculatingly while staring at the other faction leaders trying to pry the main doors open and teleporting somewhere only to fail miserably. Oh well, I think the inhabitants want to gather as supernatural in one place before appearing. Surely they have good intentions, as they haven't done anything harmful to us, Gabriel finished. Quite the good hypothesis there, my dear sister, said a male voice while a figure appeared behind the three women, slightly startling them. Azazel, it's nice to see you again, chirped Gabriel as she recognized her fallen brother, with him nodding in recognition. Likewise, and I've brought our precious sister as well with me, exclaimed the fallen governor excitedly as Penumwe appeared behind him with a tact smile. Gabriel and Raphael leapt and hugged their favorite fallen, younger sibling, as she seemed to be struggling to breathe due to the vice grips known as their arms cutting out her oxygen supply. Those two were such cis-cons when it came down to her. There was a time when they heard the news that she fell due to her lust for searching her true love. For a day heaven was filled with the woeful cries of the two, putting the phrase, "Cry me a river," to the test. That is until Penumwe visited the following day, confused at their pointless wailing, as Michael allowed her access to heaven at any time, as her reason of falling was quite minute. The fateful reunion was cut short as the sound of huge metallic steps emanating from the large ballroom doors seemed to come closer, causing everyone to pause their side conversations as they directed their attention to the ornate double doors. The doors creaked open and appeared behind the door was both regal and intimidating at the same time. A hulking figure adorned with golden armor with sharp curves while adorning a lion helm. Accompanying him was another massive warrior who instead had onyx armor instead of gold, and a helm quite distinct in shape. However, what drew everyone's attention was the figure's massive shield that looks akin to a shell of a massive prehistoric crab and the intimidating great axe strapped behind the warrior that seems to radiate great power. The figures closed the doors once more as they strolled in the ballroom with timed steps looking both intimidating and professional. Critical eyes followed their every move as they head to the ballroom stage and podium with the golden armored giant seemed to prepare to address the silent crowd of various powerful and influential beings of different pantheons. Welcome everyone to the city of Haida in Anor Londo, the kingdom of the gods. Led by the all-powerful Naruto Namikaze, the Lord of Sunlight, and his lovely queens. Queen Selene, matriarch of the Firekeepers as well as one of the head diplomats of Anor Londo. The Lady of Cinder, Queen Querida, the Witch of Izalith and governess of the city of Izalith. Queen Seath of the Draconic Realm, with her as the kingdom's most knowledgeable professor of the arts of sorcery, said the captain of the 4 knights as he projects Naruto and the 3 queens on the podium, presenting them in their royal attire, enticing quite a great deal of starstruck males and females, with the males silently cursing the lucky king for never have they seen a more beautiful woman, and the women thinking how lucky the queens are to being with such a man. Accompanying me today is another queen and her daughter as I welcome Empress Guinevere, goddess of fertility, acting the head diplomat of the kingdom, with her precious daughter Princess Gwendolyn, goddess of the moon and night. Exclaimed Ornstein as the doors opened to welcome a battalion of Dragonrider knights with a beautiful Guinevere and Gwendolyn in their usual elegant attire in between them. Walking with graceful steps, the 2 royals walked towards the podium, captivating everyone to sight. They would not forget Guinevere with her usual poised demeanor and the blushing Gwendolyn due to the attention she was receiving as they stood behind her mother the whole way. I welcome you all once more to my kingdom and the city of Haida, as we are delighted to have you here with us, Guinevere eloquently said as she gestured her hands towards the blackened windows, making them transparent to give the supernatural factions a glimpse of the great city of Haida and its hulking tower of flame watching over the city and the magnificent oceanic view of the coast. The mesmerizing view of the city caused the supernatural to compare it to the beauty of Asgard, Mount Olympus, heaven, and other beautiful locations of their respective factions. However, they realized that this is just a city and wondered what the capital would look like compared to this majestic city. I know you may have questions regarding the location you all have teleported to, and disregarding that as a mere coincidence, which you are right. With the help of my sister and fellow queen, Seath, her mages have blocked all unregulated teleportation to Anor Londo besides this ballroom, successfully gathering you all here. Any questions? Guinevere finished as a pile of hands were raised formally to be answered. Guinevere pointed to a woman with Greek battle armor with an owl perched on her pale shoulder. You there. The Greek goddess of wisdom, Athena. Shocking everyone in the room as to how she knew of the Greek goddess as the goddess of fertility smirked, enticing the reaction she desired. The wide-eyed Athena composed herself as she answered the monarch. First question, who and what are you? Regarding your species and origin. Second, how on earth did you know who I am? Good question, my dear. We are a race of humans, but not those normal humans that inhabit 90% of this world, no. We are immortal humans that are born with the ability to wield magic. However, my fellow queens, king, and our fellow children have elevated to the mantle of the gods as we are blessed by fire to bring forth an age of light. We are beings so ancient that even our top scholars do not know the time of our origin, just know that we have been around for millions and perhaps billions of years. We are ancient, all of us, for we have endured the age of dark. Also do not call me ancient unless you want to be smitten by my power. As Guinevere paused as she surprisingly flared her godly power, causing the factions and her own subjects to tremble. As for your second question, it is not crucial. Just know that I know everyone in this room regarding your political standing and power. How? I won't tell. After all, secrets have to be kept. Guinevere finished as she caused most of the beings in the room to become worried and agitated at the revelation. Second question? Guinevere asked as she scoped through the crowd, pointing at the raised hand of the Shinto goddess, Amaterasu. While it's obvious to us that you have an immense prowess as well as your kingdom harboring such strength, my question is, what is your kingdom going to utilize that power for? finished the pale goddess of the universe as they waited for a response. Another great question. While I desire for peace and cooperation amongst the other factions, the decision ultimately comes down to my husband and king, Naruto, who which I'm positive has the same desire for peace as I. However, do not take our kindness for granted. The moment we deem you as a threat towards our people, take note that we will enact the proper plans to cripple your power. The tense atmosphere in the room slightly went down after the revelation of their intent towards the other supernatural factions, albeit slightly unnerved regarding the last part. Third question? I have one, said the underworld's Leviathan as she gazed at Guinevere with a certain glint intriguing her in the process as she nodded for her to continue. Can you describe the king for us? Seraphal asked as Gabriel and Raphael gave her a discreet thumbs up for a good question. Guinevere winced as she stared at the ceiling cautiously, causing everyone to follow her sight. They saw a beautiful painted ceiling encompassing the whole ceiling that portrayed Naruto in his intimidating battle armor without his helm, wielding the powerful moonlight greatsword as it glistened with a blue hue as he prepared to slice a dragon's head. Everyone was entranced, looking at the ceiling, wondering if the painting was a portrayal of a certain event in their history. This snapped their attention back to Guinevere as she started to speak. We would be in this room for eons if you want me to describe my love, but to summarize, he is very kind and compassionate to his subjects, never arrogant despite his very right to do so after achieving what he has done, powerful beyond any means as I will lay down my life that he could overwhelm everyone in this room including me if he were to fight us, and a great friend and valuable ally if one were to befriend him, Guinevere said with both serenity and seriously. Any other questions? Yes. Why did your kind appear now at all times? At such a random time at that. Azazel said beside Penamwe, who seemed to be one of the few who still are admiring the beautiful masterpiece. I shall leave you guys with a cliffhanger at that. Tilda, just know that all questions will be answered when you all are allowed to visit the capital in 3 days, but for now you shall be allowed to teleport back to your respective homes to discuss your findings and tour the city as you please. Do take note that going past the city's borders will be acknowledged as a trespassing and whoever caught will have major repercussions. Guinevere finished as she and Gwendolyn faded away with haste to Anor Londo, confusing Ornstein and his fellow knights. Anor Londo Castle, Royal Hall. The two royals appeared between the massive marble pillars of the castle's hallway leading to the ballroom. Mother, did we really have to leave that early? Surely we could have stayed for longer to answer more questions? Gwendolyn asked her mother as they stared at the window overlooking the city. We could and would have, my dear, but there was someone or something in the room that felt old and ancient that was watching us, Guinevere said quite grimly as she would tell Naruto and her sisters about this information later. What are you talking about? Surely Ornstein would have noticed it as well, Gwendolyn said to her mother with a puzzling look etched on her face. That's the thing, Ornstein did not notice. Remember when I flared my power? Gwendolyn nodded. It is not my hatred of being called old, close, but no, I did it as a warning to whoever was listening. And the fact that it never moved or fled from wherever it might have hid unnerved me, not knowing who or what was spying on us. When are you going to tell father? Gwendolyn said nervously as she never seen her mother look this quite serious and worried since. Never. There's no need, I've heard everything, Naruto said as he appeared behind them, grabbing both his wife and daughter in a huge embrace. You did the right thing evading it. I shall visit the cathedral later. Stay here and rest, my dear. It seems you are quite stressed at this finding, Naruto whispered to Guinevere's ears as he gave her back a quick massage, calming her down. Don't go, murmured Guinevere in her husband's chest, slightly startling Naruto as he never seen his wife in such a state before. Shush, let's not talk about that, for now. Let us get lunch. Querida prepared our favorite meals from Izalith again, Naruto said as he led his wife and daughter to the dining room, all the while thinking what it is that would have garnered such reaction from Guinevere. Perhaps it was the fact that she was not in control at that moment, not knowing who or what is watching her and their daughter. Naruto will also take note of the mysterious burnt piece of clothing in his hands that he tore off Guinevere's attire. Haida, Cathedral of the Blues Ballroom. Some factions left the ballroom still quite unsatisfied with their unanswered questions as they planned to visit in 3 days, and some remained to tour the city shortly to study the people and culture of Anor Londo. Of the few were the Devil, Angel, and Fallen Angel factions as they were escorted by a firekeeper to tour the town. As the room emptied, leaving Ornstein and Dragonslay armor by themselves, Ornstein looked at his apprentice. Any reason why the Empress showed her power earlier? I guess she really hates being called old. Dunno, women confuse me, said Dragonslayer Armor with a shrug as he and Ornstein left the ballroom. Hissing sounds start to envelop the podium as the dark sludge dropped from the ceiling seemed to eat away the wood. Seems like I've been noticed by the great Guinevere, the figure said as it appeared on the podium before disappearing into a vortex that led to somewhere. Haida. Outside the Cathedral of the Blue. What a view! Gabriel exclaimed as she admired the beautiful tower and the clear blue ocean. Indeed, I'm glad this view always brings joy to newcomers to Haida, said a hooded figure appearing behind Gabriel as she introduced herself to them as Shanalot, a firekeeper known to many as the Emerald Herald. The architecture is both unique and similar to Gothic architecture, Azazel said as he studied the cathedral's wonderful exterior. Speaking of the cathedral, what is it that your people worship? Surely this place is not merely a meeting ground, as from what I could tell from the ornate statues and altars inside the cathedral, asked Penomway, crossing her arms below her bosom. While we do not have a specific religion, we do worship separate deities, such as Empress Guinevere. Not only is she our ruler, but she is the goddess of fertility, the firekeeper said with a small smile. So she truly is a goddess amongst your people? No offense to your monarch, but I thought that was just a self-imposed grandiose title, Azazel said, fixing his hat. None taken. I can see how a foreigner may come to that conclusion, but as an example of what she can do as a goddess, her tears alone can heal any wound or disease, and with her will, she can turn the decay of crops into the most bountiful of produce at a glance, and she has other powers, but those are the few I shall share, Shanalot said, not wanting to divulge any more information at one of her favorite deities, as the mother of firekeepers surely is her most favorite. Quite similar healing powers as the tears of the phoenix, Seraphald took note as well as the others. Fascinating. Thank you for answering our questions about one of your ruling queens. I apologize once more for doubting her abilities. Her outburst of power earlier should have assured me, Azazel said as he bowed down as a gesture of apology. No worries, now let us go to the town square. I'm sure there are plenty of things you want to see, the Emerald Herald said as she led the group towards the town square. As they strolled through the town, Azazel decided to start a conversation with the firekeeper. So what exactly is a firekeeper? That is, if you don't mind me asking, piquing the interest of the group. It's fine. From what little I can only tell you, we firekeepers have been around for ages, a group that has one goal in mind and only one. Our goal is to keep the flame tended and burning, the herald said as she chose her words carefully. What's this flame you all speak of? Is it a relic or some kind of deity? Asked a curious Penomway. In a way, it is akin to a deity to us, for without it unspeakable things will occur, Shanalot said as the group stopped at the Tower of Flame. Here we are, Haida's Tower of Flame. This structure has been here since the founding of Anor Londo. While we cannot enter the tower, its main purpose is to guide lost ships to the docks. A lighthouse, as you may call it, finished the hooded firekeeper. The group marveled at the size of the tower, as it seemed gargantuan at close proximity, and the amount of detail the craftsmen of the era placed on the exterior of the tower was truly stupendous. Azazel and the others took note that this tower itself rivals the ancient wonder of the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Truly a wonder, don't you think? Compared to wonders of Anor Londo, this tower barely makes the list, Shanalot said as she snapped the group of five's attention. Is the capital really that majestic as you portray it? Asked a soft-spoken Raphael. Indeed, for it is called the City of Gods. After all, words do no justice until you experience it for yourselves in 3 days' time. Citizens of Anor Londo go to the capital for a pilgrimage, as everything in the city is holy and beautiful. It is said that wishes are granted to those who visit the city for the first time. However, that seems to be purely superstitious. Shanalot described the capital. I guess we shall see for ourselves in the near future, Seraphal out loud to particularly no one while gazing at the crystal clear ocean. Well, that concludes our short tour. Feel free to explore the town. Just remember to not go past the city limits and disturb the people, and you shall be fine. I shall go back to the cathedral. Feel free to come if you need aid, or simply ask one of the city guards, the herald said as she pointed towards a dragon rider at a distance below an archway. The five nodded and said their goodbyes to the firekeeper as they were left alone in front of the tower. So what do you guys think? Azazel asked his comrades as he summoned a cigar and lit it up. Of what, the place or the people? Retorted Penomway, who is wafting away the repulsive smoke. Both, the governor of the fallen angels said as he puffed out smoke. The kingdom seems to be nice and tolerable. I guess they were cautious on how to handle beings like us. Which is to be expected after all, they just woke up after ages of slumber, Gabriel said with her usual optimism. Indeed, however, the fact that they have some information regarding us and receiving it so soon slightly unnerves me. I'm surprised some factions did not demand as to how they know about them, especially the Greeks. Raffaele said, looking at her wristwatch to look at the time, and saw that it was high noon. They must have some spies or have some sort of agreement with another supernatural being, Serafal said, getting their attention. After all, Great Red did shroud this place in an illusionary fog, and surely Ophis would soon follow, finished Serafal, getting thoughtful looks from her peers. Quite a knowledgeable theory you have there, Leviathan. We shall talk more about this a week from today when we sign the Treaty of the Three Factions, Azazel said, dusting his red trench coat. Definitely, I guess it's about the time before we depart. We've extended our stay. We were supposed to only scout the region. Don't want to give Michael a heart attack, said Raffaele as she and Gabriel prepared to teleport to heaven. Before leaving, Gabriel decided to tease her fallen sister. Penumwe, be sure to wear undergarments underneath your attire next time. You'll never find your love doing that habit, my dear sister. Also make sure to. That was all Gabriel said as Raffaele teleported them back to heaven, leaving behind a red-faced growling Penumwe and a chuckling and giggling duo of Azazel and Serafal. Why those two? Penumwe growled at her older sister, then pinching Azazel's ear to stop his laughs as she dragged him to the ground, giving him a quick glance at her chasm. OWW. Not the ears, anything but the. Ooh, they are right, you should also trim some. That was all Azazel can say after he was knocked out by now redder-faced Penumwe, teleporting back to the Grigori, not even sparing a glance at the Leviathan due to the embarrassment. The giggling Serafal was left alone as she looked back to the tower and cathedral once more before teleporting away to Kuo. Looks like it's Sona Tan's lunch break, Tilda, she said as she transformed her formal attire into her magical girl outfit. Glancing from the cathedral windows, the Emerald Herald covered her smile, watching the group of three interact with children, silently wishing that they are friends of the kingdom in the near future. Anor Londo. Castle Tower. Naruto stood alone on top of the tower waiting, leaving his family inside the castle with a clone. Naruto then summoned his moonlight greatsword, polishing it to pastime. 10 minutes later, a rip in the blue sky formed as a red dragon appeared, shrouded in fog, landed in front of Naruto, staring at him straight in the eyes. It's about time you appeared, Red Dragon. Once again, your information towards the outside world is vital to my people. However, I do wonder if you have any ulterior motives? Naruto said as he summoned his great sword away, replacing it with his Dragonslayer Greataxe. Great Red shrunk to a smaller form as he stared at Naruto. I did that as a sign of peace, no motives at all. However, I do wonder about your motives against me and my kind. After all, you reek of fallen dragons. No matter how much you mask the scent, I smell the blood of my kind bathed in your body. Great Red finished as he narrowed his eyes, leaking some of his immense power, hoping to intimidate and overpower the blonde Kane. Naruto's spear seemed to leave his hand at an unfathomable speed as it headed for Great Red's head, accurately grazing his cheek, successfully drawing first blood. Stunning Great Red as no other being beside Ophis can even wound him, but this human, no god, if he wanted to at that moment to kill him, he would have succeeded with a single blow to his head. He knew Naruto has power, but power equal to or even greater than his is just incomprehensible to the Great Dragon. Naruto slowly crept towards Great Red with a villainous smirk as each step he took rang louder than the last, successfully causing the once proud dragon to walk back in fear. Never once in the everlasting life of Great Red did he feel so vulnerable. Eventually, the dragon ran out of space to retreat as his tail hit the tower wall as he looked back to Naruto, helpless. Was he really this pathetic? Naruto stopped as he reached the snout of Great Red, glaring at him dead in the eyes. I don't have to tell you anything, you pitiful lizard. While it's true I've killed plenty of your kind, I did not do it out of my want. I did it out of necessity. Had I not, my kind won't even be here at this very moment. So watch where you crawl. You may have those fools outside think of you as the most powerful being in existence. Just know that you are merely a big fish in a little pond, Great Red, Naruto said as he unleashed his raw power, causing the marble floor to crack and the air around him to thicken. Great Red's primal instincts made him cower in absolute fear at what Naruto may unleash upon him. Naruto stopped after seeing the dragon in such a feeble state. Great Red looked up in confusion at the abrupt concealment of his power. He was sure that he would smite him then and there. Also keep in mind that you are not the most powerful dragon many claim you to be, Naruto said as he summoned a chair, sitting on it with one foot perched on his knee, making a gesture to the clouds. Great Red followed the gesture as he looked at the clouds that seemed to darken more and more. A ferocious roar can be heard louder and louder as it seemed to near them as a menacing dark dragon with four tattered wings tore through the dark clouds, flying towards them with great speed. As it landed behind Naruto, causing a small tremor, knocking down Great Red's quadrupedal legs in the process. Never in his life has Great Red seen a dragon as menacing as the one behind the Lord of Sun. Stroking the dragon's snout, Naruto announced, "Great Red, I want you to meet my summon, the Dark Eater, Midir, one of the most powerful dragons that ever flew in this realm. Midir, my dear. Meet Red Lizard, the dragon who is said to be stronger than the rest." Great Red did not get a chance to respond as the hulking black dragon gathered dark matter, focusing the energy in his feral mouth, successfully blinding the helpless dragon, then blasting the dark beam towards Great Red.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.